My name is Huds. I'm 31 years old and I have no money in my savings. How am I supposed to prepare for 2025 and this new Trump presidency? How am I supposed to survive when all these other people are making millions out there? Well, today you're going to find out.
Strong and wild, we rise up high. Conquer fears, won't let them reside. Heartbeats pound as we take the dive. Living now feels so alive. Heart steel veins glowing bright. Fitness gone in the dead of night. Dating game, we got the sight. Crushing finance, career out of sight. Man up now, we own it true. Breaking change, just me and you. Success stories everywhere. Living life beyond compare.
All right, I may have been lying. I may have a little bit in savings. But still, this is a very important topic. I don't know if everybody saw, but once Trump got elected, oh my God, we almost hit a $100,000 Bitcoin. The stock markets surged. There's so much I want to talk about with that. And also, I kind of wanted to talk about today, like how it's a marathon, not a sprint. A lot of people try and do like options trading, things like that. They're trying to make money fast. That's not the key to your financial future. But I'm not the expert. I actually have an expert finance coach here, Mr. Kevin. How are we doing?
What's going on, sir? Thanks for the introduction. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing good, doing good. I'm so excited to get into this because we've been talking about it as it's been rumbling. Things things have been
Yeah.
going on, and I know with you and Bitcoin, you bought in what like at like 35,000.
Yeah, 35,000. Bought through Swan Bitcoin app. If y'all have any questions about that, let me know. And I stored on my cold wallet here. Ballet Cold Wallet is probably the best investment that I said I would never make that I did make about a year ago. We'll get into that later, though. You brought up a good point. No money in savings. And I know that was kind of a fabrication from you because we talk about it a lot, but we're living in a time right now where 3 out of 5 families or individuals are living paycheck to paycheck. And, it's easy to blame that on inflation, gas prices going up, grocery prices going up, but that's out of our control. But what is in our control is what we do have as an emergency fund, our finances, our budget, and how we manage our money. That is well within our control. And like Alex said, I am a financial coach. Now, there's differences between that. You have a financial coach, financial advisor, and a financial consultant. What a coach does is I ask the right questions to find out your goals and your current situation, provide feedback on that, and then inject hope. I don't recommend any individual stock, any individual ETF, or anything to say buy. I will show you how to research to maybe make that decision on your own. However, I work with people that are basically financially illiterate, ignorant, if you want to say. I know that is an offensive term, but that just means not knowing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But unless you ask somebody, you won't know. A lot of us, myself included, grew up in middle-class families to lower middle-class families where instead of having normal conversations about finances at the dinner table, we were talking about how the electric bill was going to get paid. So it's not anyone's fault that they are not abreast on how to do a budget. We don't learn that in school. We should, or what the different types of investments are. And there are so many out there that if you start early, like Alex said, it is a marathon, not a sprint. A lot of people want to see YouTube shorts or IG posts where these people saying, I took my business from, $10 to $4 million in 6 months doing this. Most of all, they're lying, because if they did that, they wouldn't ask for your money to teach you how to do it. But when it comes to day trading to get rich quick, there's about 1% of the people out there that try that are actually successful. The other 99 lose their ass and they back to square one. So when I teach, and what my course is, what we start with the basics. We start with a budget. We know how much comes in and what's going out. And every dollar has to have an assignment, whether it goes into savings, whether it goes to groceries, whether it goes to the light bill, or whether it goes to investing. And if you know what's coming in versus what's going out, we can always find a little bit to invest. And the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be.
Very well put. Yeah, it really is crazy. One of the things we were talking about recently with the crypto, especially as that's been booming. You know, even if it's just having that $5 recurring investment, I hate the fact that on Coinbase they pulled down USDC from 5% APY to 4%. That's killing me right now, just because it's just disappointment. But find places where you can park your money appropriately. I know you had talked about like some ETFs and things like that. I know a lot of those tend to they average around like 7% growth.
I would say 6, depending on dividends and capital gains. You know, a lot of people don't know how that works. You know, if you buy an ETF, which is an exchange traded fund, you know, buy VOO is a big one, VOO. It's through Vanguard. It's rather expensive, but you can buy fractions of shares, so anybody can get into it. It's not like it was 20 years ago where you had to have 100, share minimum. But the way that works is every quarter they come out with a dividend, and say that's 3%, 4% of whatever you own, that is paid back to the owner of the share. And so if you get that 4 times a year at 3%, that's 12%. But you can average about 6%. And you can pretty much bank on that's what you're going to get. The average is about 6%.
Gotcha. And really what you're doing with those types of investments, and like that's why it's like stability. We're talking stability. This is long term. It's proven time and time again that it works. And if you want your money to work for you and you want to outpace inflation, this is your best way to stay safe. A lot of people don't understand that. And it is still wild to me. And Kevin, I want to have you speak a little bit on this, but it is wild to me how many people still keep their money in a savings account that's paying them literally next to nothing just because they don't understand where to park their money. So talk a little bit about that and where like some of the safest places to park your money would be and why.
Well, I think the biggest reason why people just put their money in the bank and leave it there at 0.03% interest, that's what they average for a normal savings account, is because you see all these movies or you hear all these people, they talk about, I lost everything in the stock market, or I lost everything when investing. A good example to say about it is the crash we had in 2008, where everything did go down about 50%. So if you had 100,000 in investments, it was down. You didn't lose it. It was down to about 50,000. So, but the way you lose money in the stock market, and this is what people don't understand, is, okay, you buy a stock, and let's keep this simple math. You buy a stock or you buy a mutual fund at $1. You buy it, you own it at $1. Well, in a week, it goes down to 50 cents. Okay, so you're down 50 cents. Now, if you sell it at that 50 cents, yeah, you've lost half of your initial investment. However, if you hold on to it and the market goes back up to $1.50, then you haven't lost anything. Now you've gained 50%. And a lot of people don't understand that's how that works. There's a big difference between being down and losing. Losing is when you sell at a price cheaper than you bought it for. And a lot of people don't understand that you can ride that out. And we just spoke about dividends. Now, when you get paid that dividend, whether it be 3%, 5%, whatever, every quarter, you have the option to have that go into your core account where it's money that you can just take, or you can just reinvest it back into the security. So that means if you get, say, a 10% dividend on $1 investment, then now you have $1.10 in that investment. And so you're gaining, and that over time, that adds up. because not only are you getting that dividend, now you're reoccurring buying more shares off of money you invested. So you can park $100 in there, and then 20 years from that could be 10,000. Who knows? But that's where the long-term investing strategy has always worked and is tried and true.
I like that. So you're essentially talking about this, right? Diamond hands, don't sell.
I've never seen that before.
You've never seen this before? This is
No, I've
Wall
never seen
Street
it.
Bets. Yeah, this is Wall Street Bets, like their logo. Diamond hands, don't sell, don't sell, don't sell. But that's very true what you're saying, because when you don't lose until you sell. I mean, there's obviously
Yeah.
a certain point. I've been through it with different crypto cycles, for sure. Like there were times I lost out at selling at the high, and instead you get kind of screwed. And it's even happened to me as well with some of the stocks. I do play around with some of the stuff like the GameStop and the AMC and those short squeeze type of options. And it's very, very, very interesting. And it's all about holding on to it because you don't lose until you sell. But there's always a time when it's like, all right, we are way too far down from our initial investment. Maybe we should just like scalp this and go do something different. But you're absolutely right with it. And I think that's what's difficult for people. When you think about it, today in today's society, everything is immediate. All right. So everything is immediate when it comes to entertainment. You can just boom, pop open Instagram. You can pop open TikTok, go ahead and watch reels, and just cruise through that. And it's immediate satisfaction. The issue that we have when it comes to investing and long-term investing and looking towards stability, that cannot occur in a rapid, aggressive environment like that. It is a long-term play. It's one of those things where, I'll never forget, I had put $1,000 into a Betterment account. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of Betterment before. Betterment is a robo-advisor where essentially it just runs a computer algorithm to figure out where it's going to put your money, and then you roll with it. And it does pretty good. It does pretty good. So I did that back at the end of 2019, and then at the end of 2020, this is all like COVID, and the money doubled. My $1,000 was $2,000 by the end of the year, and I was like, "Whoa, that's kind of crazy." So it's very interesting when you do certain things like that. Sorry, I was reading that and then I just lost my complete train of thought.
I'm sorry. I should have put
You're
that
good.
up
You're
there.
good.
That's
No,
like-
no, dude. No problem at all. But what you're saying is, and I guess where I'm kind of coming at this from is understand that patience is king. That's one thing that I've had to learn time and time again as I've gotten older and more mature, and I've interacted with a lot of other people, is that I always was like that jackrabbit, like get it done, get it done, get it done. But that's not how the world works. Understand that the world works much slower than you want it to work. It just is what it is. Life will pass you by fast, but other people are going to move slower than you because you have a personal vested interest. And so when it comes to these types of investments, always take your time to think about it. Think about it first, then go to sleep. And then the next day, if you still want to do it, go for it. Other than that, like off the cuff type of things, that's just going to land you in a financial prison. And it's one of the things that we had talked about with the crypto stuff, the DCA. Instead of getting your coffee every morning, well, just set up a $5 recurring buy. That's what I'm doing with USDC. I got it for a couple other coins as well, but even just for USDC, even though it's 4% instead of 5%, it's still the same thing. So instead of getting a cup of coffee, I'm foregoing a pleasure to establish something that's going to be stable and continue to grow into my future.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's what a lot of, especially young people, they don't look towards more than a couple of weeks in advance, But if you look 10 years in advance, that's why they talk about, retirement. 401ks, Roth IRAs. That's something we can discuss. I can tell you the differences. If you ever want to do one-on-ones with me, that's fine. However, you don't just have to plan for retirement. You can start a brokerage account and start investing, especially if you're in your 20s. Start investing a couple $100 a month. You'd be amazed in 5 years of what you'll have. And I can teach you also how to do the research to find out what might be a good investment or a bad investment or more risk, or something that's a little bit less risky. You want to have a little bit of all of it inside your portfolio. So that way, even if you're more risky, took a dive and is down a little bit, you got your less risky that's a little bit more tried and true that kind of makes up for that. And it's pretty common to, when you start investing, everything goes down a little bit. But then if you stick with it and you keep reinvesting in the same things over time, now you'll see that, it's up 50% from when you initially bought it. And that's what people don't, if you can't stomach the day-to-day ups and downs, then you just need, like you said, do a reoccurring buy in something that you don't look at every day and just worry more about what you're putting into it and then what it's up or down. Because over the length and the time that you have it, I mean, the past shows that it always tends to go up, especially the S&P 500.
Absolutely. And you know what, Kevin? I want to turn this to you on budgeting, because that's one of the very first things you brought up. And I don't think people really understand what budgeting looks like or even how to get started with it. So I want to hear your thoughts on budgeting, like how to actually set up a budget, or like how you would recommend somebody to like start to really think about some of those costs that are coming out so that the influx coming in isn't getting wasted.
Well, the budget is the first thing I teach. Well, first we get a little temporary emergency fund. So that way you've got something back for a rainy day. Now we increase that later on, but a budget is not as complicated as most people think, especially with all the technology that we have. There's budgeting apps out there that will actually do all the calculations for themselves. You just have to be involved. But really, it takes about 30 minutes a month to go over your budget and see where money's going out and what's coming in. But that's the first thing. You have to worry about what's coming in. Okay, if you've got $500 a week that's coming in, but you've got $600 a week going out in bills and subscriptions and other things like that in your entertainment, that's where you have to realign and make some sacrifices in some places. But as far as when it comes to breaking down a budget, it's not that difficult, but it's not something I can do in 5 minutes.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah,
You know
because
what I mean?
I know for me there's so many different apps and stuff out there, and I've done some of my own budgeting sheets, and it just really is important to look at, okay, yes, what's coming in and what's coming out. I think that if anybody does not have a budget sheet, definitely get one. I have had difficulty finding ones that are really good online, so that's why I've created some of my own. But it's the mindset about it. It's the mindset behind the whole thing, and understand that, again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So when you can lay it out, especially when you're doing some debt payoff too, it's very important to have it set up that way. And I know, Kevin, you're a huge fan of Dave Ramsey when it comes to this type of stuff. And I know he's got
His financial,
Snowball.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's who I'm licensed through, was Ramsey Solutions. I did take his course. I did pass all the things I needed to do. I'm one of his preferred coaches, but I don't agree with him on everything. But you just brought up a great thing: is debt. Consumer debt is what's killing young people right now. Having $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 in credit card debt on top of their student loans and on top of the skyrocketing rent. That's what's killing people right now. So with my program, step 2 is we start knocking out that debt before we start investing anything. We get that debt to zero. I've been debt free for 3 years. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing better than not owing anything, especially on what I live in, is my taxes, utilities, and insurance. It's so much better, and it frees up all that money. So step 2 of my program is 3 months that we go through, meeting once a week, is we start figuring out how we can knock that debt down. And there's a formula that we have to line your debts up, smallest to largest. And then we start tacking that small one, make minimum payments on everything else. And then once that small one's knocked out, we move on to the next one. And then what we were putting on that one, we put it on that one, and it just snowball effects. Before you know it, you've got all that debt knocked out in a year. And now that frees up all that money, because if you're paying on 3 credit cards, minimum payment $60 a month, see how much that frees up to invest later on.
It's a great point. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed to myself, and sorry to my sister, but when she was in college with me, because we're very similar ages. Oh man, my hair today. I look great regardless, and I got my beautiful fucking castle here. I love it. My sister cracked me up because she thought that minimum payment just is what was owed. So when she had one of her first credit cards back in college, she was just paying the minimum, and then the balance just kept going up. And she was like, "Mom, what's going on?" And Mom stepped in and paid it off and taught her what credit cards really mean. Like, no, we don't want to be playing minimum balances. What we really want to be doing is we want to be eliminating that debt and free things up that are continually going to grow for your future. And it really is wild, and it's very commendable. It's very commendable, Kevin, that you're living debt free and you just get to live life on your own terms. What people don't realize is the psychological binds that exist when you don't have a fully paid off credit card, when you don't have fully paid off debt. It really does tie you to that understanding that I always have to be paying this person. Once you're able to break out of that, it really is. It's just spending money on the essentials, what actually needs to occur month to month. And then any excess, you go ahead and you can spend it how you please. It really is that simple. But what's hard is that we are born into it. We are born into it when it comes to the student loan type of situation, where in America you're deemed to believe that if you do not have a college degree, that you cannot be successful. And so, boom, you go ahead and take a student loan, and then that is like a ball and chain that's on you for some people, it could be most of their life.
Yeah.
You got this ball and chain on you when you could just get rid of it. You move past these types of things. So it's like meant to keep you in that cycle. And it's something that I've noticed as well. When we think about like the different types of ads and stuff that we have out there, we have all these ads that are about gambling. We have all these ads about balance transfer credit cards. A balance transfer credit card can be a great idea if you have the wherewithal to understand exactly what you're doing and you're doing it the right way. Otherwise, those things sneak up on you too. And then all of a sudden you're hit with a 30% APR on a card you didn't realize, and you just thought you were paying the minimum every single month.
Yeah. What people don't understand, that 0% on balance transfers, the interest still accrues. However, usually for 12 months, you got 0% interest for 12 months on balance transfers from other credit cards. Well, that interest is still accruing in the background. Once that 13th month hits, it all gets added to that. That's why those things don't work, just like payday loans, that kind of stuff. So it's best to just do what you got to do, pay your fucking credit cards off, and when you get started with me, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut those credit cards up. You're going to work with a debit card, and you're going to pay those credit cards off. Now, once we get to step 5 and 6, now we can start talking about bringing credit cards back in the fold for maybe some, Sky Miles, reward points, this, that, and the other, which Dave would probably want to choke me for that. But I do believe him because I use them as well. But I pay them off every month. But we got to build that discipline up where you're going to pay them off every month, because you're not paying, $2,000 a month on all this other consumer debt, that you can do that. And I even front load some of my cards, which means if I have a $200 balance on it, I'll pay $1,000 payment. So I've at $800 credit. So that way, every time I swipe that card until that 800 is gone, it doesn't even hit my credit report. But I can show you tips and tricks on ways to do that. But I've got to get you to that point first. First, we got to get all this stupid spending out of the way. We got to get you on a budget to know where your money's going out. We got to get you investing. So the long term is going to look better for you. But until we get to that point, we don't. But there's ways that we can do that to leverage certain debts to benefit you later on. But I mean, if you're $15,000 in credit card debt, got $25,000 in student loans, and you're only making $4,000 a month, I got to get you to that point first before we can start talking about that. And then we can start building true wealth. But if you've got little ankle biters like credit cards, you're never going to have the mindset of now I can start thinking in the future, because you're always worried about these little ankle biters that are killing you. And at the same time, still putting groceries, still putting cell phone payments, still putting stuff like that on credit cards. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. Sometimes you got to make some sacrifices. And that's what a lot of young people don't want to hear. But if you make that sacrifice now, it will pay off in dividends, no pun intended, in the long term.
Are you telling me that these were pointless purchases?
As long as you wouldn't put them on a credit card, yeah. But if you have to put Legos in your budget, budget $200 a month for Legos, we can do that. That's the one thing that I don't like to do. A lot of people in my realm, in my space, the first thing they do, okay, you got a car payment. Well, how much is that car worth? It's worth $12,000. How much do you owe on it? $13,000. Sell the car, borrow $1,000, and then buy you a beater. I'm not one of those guys. If you want to keep that debt and keep that car, that's fine. But you're going to keep me as a coach probably a year and a half longer than you need to if you don't do that. I'm not one of those ones that's going to say you're stupid for doing this or stupid for doing that. We're going to work with the situation, but over time, I guarantee you after 3 weeks, we're going to revisit that same issue with the car, and you'll probably see where I'm coming from. But maybe it's time to get rid of that $600 car payment at 12% interest and get you something to where we can get you back on track to getting debt free and start getting an investment portfolio. But I'm not one of those ones that are going to make you feel bad for the situation you're in, because I made those mistakes too a long time ago. And everybody makes those mistakes. The only thing we can do, we can glance back, but we can't beat ourselves up for mistakes we made in the past. We don't forget, but we don't look back and we don't dwell on them, because we can't change that shit. But it is time to start moving forward, especially if, we got a Trump in the administration, markets are going crazy. Great. However, I made money when Biden's administration as well from my investments, so it doesn't matter who's in the White House on how we can make money on our investments. The main thing is we've got to focus on what's most important, having what you want right now or waiting 6 months to save up and pay for it. You can buy it with a credit card right now, but you can have it in 6 months. And I can guarantee you one thing, just almost like a tattoo. If you want a tattoo right now, wait 6 months. I guarantee you in 6 months, you don't want that anymore. And that's tried and true for the things that we want in our life materially. And once we start learning that of what's most important, that's when our paradigm starts to shift financially. And that's when that aha moment goes off. And it's like, man, I would rather have $25,000 in investments than a BMW, a used BMW sitting in my driveway. Because I mean, that's just it's the way our human psyche works. We buy things. Dave says something really good. We buy things that we don't need to impress people we don't like.
See, I actually completely disagree with that entire thing, because like for me, that's not what it's about. It's not about impressing others. So that just doesn't ever ring true to me. However, I do understand the thought process.
Yeah, you're the minority on that one, especially for young people, especially when you're trying to get clout, get attention, people will finance a pocketbook that costs $6,000. You know what I'm saying? They'll put that on a credit card just so they can look good as they walk down South Beach Drive. And I mean, that's great that you don't have that mindset, but you are the minority right there.
Right. And that's kind of what I wanted to dive into with this, because when it comes to setting that budget or having those types of constraints and just making sure that you're putting money in the appropriate place, like how do you determine what makes sense? Because I'm not going to lie, a lot of these Legos, I did it on Afterpay, like buy now, pay later, because it's like, why not? It costs the same and I can just do it in segments. But why is it that people overextend their credit? Because essentially, I think it has something to do with the psyche of understanding or thinking or having the perceived illusion that it's kind of like free money. What causes people to do this, and like how can they pull that back? How can they pull back some of those purchases outside of just creating a budget? How can they change their mindset on that and not be doing this type of stuff?
Well, the mindset was created. How many people I've worked with that said, "Well, no, if I pay this off, my credit score will go down." Or I want an 850 credit score. You know what an 850? You know what you have to do to have an 850 credit score? You have to have paid over $100,000 in interest over the life of your credit.
Wait,
That's what
really?
people don't understand about credit scores. Credit scores are irrelevant. Okay. I've had people come to me and was like, well, no, if I pay my house off, I won't get the tax write-off. I was like, well, how much did you pay in interest last year on your house? $6,500. Well, the standard deduction is $14,000 right now. So you don't get to write that off anyways. People's mindset like that, thinking a credit score is more important than being debt-free. Because yeah, when you are debt-free, your credit score goes down. But if I have to go, just like I'm having to borrow a little
Wait,
bit of money.
hold on. I want to focus in on that.
Okay.
When you're debt free, your credit score goes down, because that's weird. Because I just paid off a $30,000 loan not too long ago and my credit score went down. Explain that for me, because I think that's bullshit.
Because that's how credit scores are calculated, by how much debt you have and that you're paying the payments on time with the interest that comes along with them. And people don't understand that. And that's what's not taught about that thing. People literally think their credit score is more important than being debt free. And when you change that paradigm, because here's the thing, okay? If you're debt free like I am right now, my credit, I don't even know what my credit score, my FICO score is. It's up there a little bit because I do use credit cards to pay certain things just to keep the miles and get the points, because I've made it to that point. However, if I go to take out a loan and have a credit score of 0 with my income, what they do is they do a assessment of what your credit score was before you became debt free. So if that was 750, 780, they can use that to loan you money. But here's the thing. A lot of people, like, you can go to fill out an application for an apartment that does a credit check and you have a credit score of 0. They won't rent the apartment. But you might even have the money in the bank or in your investments to buy the apartment complex, but they don't want to rent it to you because you don't have a credit score. But that shouldn't concern you as a consumer. What should concern you is not owing anybody anything. It's a great feeling to not know anybody anything.
It's interesting. Yeah. The entire, like, I just don't get it, because the fact that, I mean, $30,000 is, my hair is still crazy.
Uh-oh.
Well, I look cuter now. But it blew my mind, because it comes down to some of the things of like utilization of different cards and things like that. But I paid off a $30,000 debt, and it closed an account because of it. And then because it's closing an account, it negatively affects me. You only win if you stay in debt.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You only win if you stay in debt. And outside of that, hey, just stand by your guns. Like, if you've got everything's paid for and you're not approved for something, it's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not in debt, and I choose not to be in debt. If you think that I am less than a trustworthy type of person to be involved in the situation, and you'd rather take somebody who is in debt, I guess go for that, but I'm just trying to pay for it. Like, what do you want from me? It really is. It's a very bizarre way that they have it set up, and I think it's something that it tricks people because we were not taught this, as you said. In very very good point that you had made earlier. We are not taught this in school. We are not taught how to manage this entire system. So if you're not taught how to do it, and then you do what is supposed to be right on paper, well, you didn't realize that there's a game you got to play. And it's like, well, why do I have to play a game? Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't. And sometimes it just takes that conversation because it's just absurd. It's absurd what we have done and how we've kind of like set up people's mindsets where they don't know how the world works. And then when they figure out how the world works, then they go into deep consumer debt. And then as they get themselves out of that deep consumer debt, they don't understand why paying off things all of a sudden drops your score. Like, what are we doing here? And so it's just good to have somebody by your side who actually understands like every step of the way why it's happening, the way it's happening, and how you can best win in the given situation.
Yeah, like you said, okay, you're going to turn me down because I don't have a credit score because I have no debt. Thank you. You've just saved me from making another stupid mistake to go financing something that I probably don't need. If you get to that mindset, then you're really on the right track. You talked about earlier, like with your sister, with the learning the lesson the hard way of, got a credit card. Most people get a credit card. Their first credit card is about $2,500 is about what your limit is. They go out and they max that out within a week, because they're young, they're 18. Hey, I was there. I can say this because I know. And that 2,500 back then was probably about 17 to 20% interest that accrues daily. People don't realize that either, that if I made minimum payments, which would be about $35-40 on that $2,500, it would take me almost 6 years to pay that off. And that 2,500 just became over 9,000 that I paid back.
People don't. And you know what? I want to ask you this question on that because I think it's very important for people to understand. First off, what you said, it accrues daily.
Mm-hmm.
However, one thing that I've been finding frustrating with some of my cards that I'm using is that, and I don't know if you can answer this question, if you go ahead and do a balance transfer and then you're purchasing additional things, but then it's only suggesting you to pay an X amount to not have interest, but then the interest still comes anyway. Like, how do you manage all of this type of things? Is it like when you do something like a balance transfer, when you do the balance transfer, is it that you shouldn't even use that card for anything else? Does that muddy the waters? How about with all this other stuff? Like, how do you balance these interest rules? Because they seem to be very confusing.
Well, yeah, they make them confusing for a reason. Like we talked about earlier, they make that 0% interest for 12 months on balance transfers. They make that sound real appealing. But like you said, okay, so say you got 5,000 that you roll over or you balance transfer and you put another 2,000 on that card. Now that 2,000 over that transfer is going to start accruing interest daily. So you still get the 0% for 12 months on that 5,000, but you're raising the debt owed. So it makes that 5,000 harder to be paid. So I would never recommend doing, and that's why I don't recommend debt consolidation loans either, because banks and institutions wouldn't do those if they weren't making money. So it always makes it sound good. Okay, we'll roll everything over to one cheaper interest rate and put it all in one and just pay one big payment instead of all these little ones. But they wouldn't do that and they wouldn't pitch that if they weren't making money. They make it sound good, and that's why they're good salesmen. But the best thing to do is if you've got debt, stop accruing more, cut those fucking cards up, and start paying those debts off. That's the best way to do it.
That's a great point. And that's what I really wanted to drive home with that point, because I've used, and I made this mistake, I've used balance transfer cards They are absolutely fantastic if done the right way. But if you go ahead and open one of those cards, you move a balance, and then you charge to that card,
Yeah.
well, the amount that you're charging outside of the transfer is accruing that interest. And they make it impossible. I'm sure there's going to be a lawsuit about it sometime soon, but they make it impossible so that you can just pay off what is actually owed to the card plus minimum payment. Instead, they have just the minimum payment based on the entire balance, which then forces you to accrue that interest, which then kicks you in the nuts in the long term. And it honestly is disgusting behavior. The entire thing, I fucking hate it all. Quite honestly,
Yeah, I wish
it
everybody
shouldn't be
hated
this way. It's predatory.
it. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's all about the dollars and cents. And some people they get gratification by being able to get everything instantly, and that's what these credit card companies, these payday loans, they prey on those types of people.
So what is a payday loan? Can you explain that a little bit?
Payday loans, you don't see them as much as you used to, but they were basically little right next to a convenience store, payday loan that people could go in. If they could show us check stub, they could get a certain amount of money. But these were ridiculous interest rates. Some of them were even so much. If you got a $500 loan from a payday loan, that the payments were $75 a month, but that $75 only kept the loan good. You still owed that $500. A lot of people didn't know that. So they paid this $75 a month for like 6 months and went to the payday loan because they didn't send out stubs. They didn't have online apps. You would go back in there. How much do I still owe on this? I'm paying $75 for 6 months. You still owe $500. What are you talking about? Yeah, you didn't read the fine print. The $75 a month just keeps the loan active, keeps it open.
That's wild.
So basically,
and they're illegal. They're illegal in Pennsylvania because
they should be
I
illegal.
was in a bind at one point, and I was like, "Wait, I've heard about this." And then I looked it up, and I saw it was illegal in Pennsylvania. So I'm like, "Wow, there's something very wrong here." And then when I did the research, I saw the same thing. The interest rates are so extreme, and they make it so confusing that you don't even understand how to like resolve the contract.
Yeah. And before you know it, you borrowed $500, but you pay back, $2,500 just to get it all right, unless it goes to collections. And that's another thing too. I can teach you the difference about bankruptcy and which bankruptcy would apply to you when you can't pay all this debt that you accrued. I'd rather not go through that, but I had to be educated in that too, because sometimes that is the last resort to file for bankruptcy. And sometimes that's good for people because for 7 years, don't even think you're getting a credit card, a payday loan, anything like that, because you screwed your financial situation up so much that you have to write it all off. The government forgave it. And for 7 years, you basically are uninsurable, uncreditable. So I hate that I had to learn like that, but I would rather teach somebody how to get out of debt than eliminate their debt through bankruptcy.
Right. And bankruptcy, I would love to dive into that topic, but we are getting close to time here. I want to kind of talk about the current markets because it's been pretty interesting. We've seen that Bitcoin got to that point. It got to that like 99.5. But that's where all those contracts were at. And so everybody pulled out once we hit there, and that's why it crashed. It's interesting because I've seen prices rise, and I really want your expertise on this. Not saying that you're a financial advisor. We are not financial advisors, but I want your opinion on how we've seen inflation go. You've lived through 2008, and so it's interesting to see what's going on right now. And then we're seeing kind of the inflationary points of certain things, especially when it comes to crypto. Like, what do you think in 2015 would be the best way to create like a stable, growing financial environment for oneself?
If you're starting out in 2025, The first thing you can do is open a brokerage account. You can do that Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab. They've all got brokerage accounts out now. I'm not getting paid by them, but I've been with Fidelity for over 20 years. So I would actually steer you towards that because I'm used to it. But start you a brokerage account and tie your bank account to it and start putting $50 a paycheck in it. Just start small. Okay. And then if you want to get with me one-on-one, I'll teach you how I research funds, stocks, anything like that, any types of investments. But the first thing you can put it in is a high yield money market account. Most high yield money market accounts are about 4.5%. They were a little bit more during inflation going up. And then as things go down, they will start to go down a little bit as well. But that's a guaranteed 4.5% 30-day yield on the money that you put in it. And so that's a good place to park your emergency fund. That's a good place to park money you can't just go get with an ATM, and you can just watch it grow. That can show you and gain you a little bit more confidence in the market of how interest and dividends work on the other end. You know, interest that you pay on a credit card is more of what you borrowed. Interest, what you make on a high yield savings account, is money that you earn by just having your money sit with that institution. Because what that institution does is they take the money that you put in there and they invest it in other places. And as that makes more money, they give it back to you in dividends. And that's how banks make money. If people don't know that, I mean, banks don't make money just because grandma takes $50 and puts it in her bank account and lets it sit there and it sits in a vault like you see on TV. That's not how it works. Banks take that money and they invest that money in other things. And as that money grows, that's how the bank makes money.
Yeah, I don't think people understand that the money that you put in the bank, they're not keeping it. They're actually investing it. People don't understand that concept.
Yeah.
They literally are using it as leverage. They're literally using it as leverage for other things. Go ahead.
I could say we could do a 6-month every week show, but no, guys, I can't teach you everything I know without, getting a little bit in return, because I am not free. I'm not cheap. I mean, I'm not expensive, but I don't do this for free. But
dude, you're not even close to expensive. for what you offer and for what you charge, it's absolutely fantastic. And quite honestly, dude, it's crazy that it's taken me so long to have to learn this and struggle through it myself. You just have the knowledge, you get it, you understand how it works, and it's like, okay, let's make our money work for us instead of use money we don't have. And so I understand there's two different ways of thinking of it. There's the Dave Ramsey, like debt free, and exactly what you're doing. And then you've got the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Kiyosaki, like way of thinking about it, where it's revolving debt. I'll tell you right now, I've done both. I've done both styles. Whereas the more conservative, the way that you do it, is less fun in life, because I also like gambling and I like my crypto trading and I like my stock trading. At the same time, it is tried and fucking true. It is tried and true. There is nothing you can do wrong. Make your money work for you. And even if you're not going to get 1,000% gains, well, you got 50% gains. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, that's better than 0% gains. And there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of both. If you have that strong, steady portfolio that you're investing, there's nothing wrong with going out and trying a couple of, quick flips or a pump and dump with somebody else. And I have nothing against that. One thing that, Ramsey talks about, he's really big into real estate, but he likes to say, oh, well, just save up and pay cash for your first rental. Who the fuck? How long is it going to take somebody making $110,000 a year to save up $350,000 to buy a house? I mean, that's not realistic. But he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he did fail in his initial start, and he went bankrupt. So I can see why he feels like that. But most of us don't have best-selling books that sell for millions of dollars a year to have that option to just go pay cash for an apartment complex. However, if you do want to get into real estate, which I recommend, it's a great investment, I have no problem with going into debt for that. However, you're not going to do it. I'm not going to do it as Kevin from Men of Now. I'm not going to go out and take a $500,000 loan out to go buy some houses. I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to start an LLC. I'm going to have a business, and my business will be in debt. Kevin, I will not be in debt, but my business can be in debt to work pay off. So I am all for that. And that's taking a little bit of risk, but if you do it calculated, it can pay tremendously in the long run. So that's where me and my opinion, my coaching style will differ from the boomer Dave Ramsey and the way he does it.
That's oh dude, I kind of want to dive all into all of this right now, but we are at time here. I think that this is something that probably we'll talk about this weekend. Just to let everybody know, when it comes to Men of Now, the community itself, we are still closed, and we will be closed until January.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a very fun conversation that's going to come, and I think that this Sunday's meeting is going to be all about this. We really got to talk finances and how to prep yourself for the future of what's going to happen from here. Because I got a lot of things to share. I'm sure you have a lot of things to share. I'm sure Josh has a lot of things to share. And I'm sure the members as well have a lot of things to share. It's going to be very interesting as we kind of dive into it. But I don't want to dive too deep into it right now. I think we kind of scratch the surface. Guys, just lay it out for yourself. We got to set a budget first. From the budget, we go ahead and cut spending. And we go ahead and use the snowball method, which is correct me if I'm wrong, it's the smallest amount due in debt first.
Yeah. You just take all your consumer debt, whether it be credit cards, student loans, auto loan, whatever, and you just line them up smallest to largest. Usually your credit cards are the smallest. So you pay minimum payments on everything else, and you just attack that smallest debt with the most intensity you can. Every spare dollar you have goes to that. Once that's paid off, you take all that intense, what you were paying on that, plus the minimum payment that you were paying off, and you put it on the next one. And you see how it snowballs. So by the time you get to that auto loan, you're paying $1,000 a month. You're paying the payment, but you're paying another $800 a month on the principal. And that shit just starts. And then you start to see basically how the same with investing goes in paying off debt, how you can reverse that, start paying a little bit into investing. As that starts to grow, you start paying a little bit more, you start earning a little bit more, and you still live within the same means. And then that starts to snowball in the other direction. Instead of paying off debt, now you're building your portfolio and you're building true wealth, and your net worth starts to go up. And it doesn't happen overnight, guys. It really doesn't. But if you think in 5, 10, 15 year terms, man, imagine what it would look like in 15 years to have $350,000 in investments, no debt, and a paid off house. That's
Kevin, I don't want to do that, because then I don't get to go hang out with models in Miami.
Well, what's more important?
What's more important, financial stability or?
Yeah, in 15 years you will, and that boat will be a lot nicer than the one you can buy now. You know what I mean? So it's something I could talk about all day. And, I don't pretend to know everything, but for the guys that are just getting started out, man, I can really help you, because not only have I studied, learned, passed the test, whatever you want to call it, I've lived it too. So I can use personal experience along with what I've learned. And for me, I love seeing people win. And that's what we are all about in the Men of Now. So if it's something that you don't think is important right now, talk to me in 5 years. I guarantee you'll be like, man, I wish I'd have listened to that fucking little redheaded guy. You know what I mean? So
you're not little, man. You're far from
short.
little.
Yeah, I'm not little, but I'm short. But that's okay. Hey, it's the cards that I was dealt. But yeah, man, let's go ahead and wrap it up here. And I'm looking forward to Sunday as well.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So my final thoughts just on this. It's going to be a good conversation that we're going to have with the members. Keep on the lookout, because we are going to be opening up again for new membership in January. So this is going to be a fantastic time. We've already got some new guys that had come in right before this kind of close off period. So juggling, but very excited for it. And so it's going to be really fun to kind of have this conversation and go a little bit deeper on it, on some of these intricacies that exist within the finances, because it's wild, dude. It's so weird that I went to school and my degree is in finance, but I'm a published academic author in IT and I work in the IT field. It doesn't make any sense, but I roll with it. And I am so financially illiterate, and being around people like Kevin and Josh and all the other guys that we have here has been nothing short of just a miracle of helping to understand and see from different perspectives. Am I doing this from the wrong direction? And a lot of the times I was. I didn't realize it, but a lot of the times I was. And so then going through that process and understanding that, then I can kind of redirect myself. And it's just, I kind of just like sit back and it's like, yeah, life isn't as like fast and loose as it used to be, but it damn sure is comfortable.
Yeah.
You got so much knowledge. You got so much knowledge in here. So much knowledge from Kevin, so much knowledge from Josh. I can give you some knowledge as well, and I can also tell you my own mistakes. It's it's very interesting, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with the guys. I don't want to. There's a lot of questions I want to ask you, Kevin, but I don't want to reveal everything. So we're gonna save those questions for that members meeting, and I cannot wait for that members meeting. If you guys do want to go ahead and join the Men of Now, the best way to do so would be to reach out, at least for right now, would be to reach out to myself on Instagram at the Hudsman, or to reach out to Kevin on Instagram. What is it again? Is it KLewis_?
Yeah, KLewis_NC, or you can just search for Kevin Lewis. It'll probably pop up there. But then also the website's going to be modified now to where you can get on the waiting list. We already have a couple people on the waiting list, and the email list as well. So check us out then. But we're here every Tuesday. We do a show from 8 to 9. Sometimes a little bit to the right, sometimes a little bit to the left. But you can always check us out there and like, comment, subscribe. We sure appreciate it just for support. We're just getting started here as this group. So we would like to build it as good and as efficient as we can. So always reach out. There's nothing wrong with asking. The only thing that we might say is if we don't know, we can point you in the right direction to get there.
Yes, sir. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. We're building in the same way we're going to be building our finances for the future. Patience is key. It is going to be amazing what we're going to have, especially with this new administration, with the new tariffs. I'm very excited for it. But until next time, guys, peace out.